At 27 years old, Lauren Giddings was the first in her family to go to college. Her family in Maryland was proud of her, especially since she was about to start her career as a public defender. Lauren had recently graduated from Mercer University's Walter F. George School of Law in Macon, Georgia. Though she had completed her studies, the tall, attractive blonde with green eyes was busy the last week of June 2011, preparing for the bar exam. Lauren's sister wasn't worried when Lauren didn't reply to her texts, knowing she was deeply focused on studying for the upcoming exam. Lauren had lived in Barrister Hall Apartments, just across from her law school. She adored the convenience of her apartment's location, yet she often shared with her sisters and classmates a nagging suspicion that someone had been inside her apartment when she wasn't there. Items seemed to be shifted or not quite how she left them, though she could never confirm her suspicions for certain. Over the last year, the idea of switching to a different apartment complex had crossed her mind due to these unsettling feelings, but the close proximity to her school made it difficult to let go of such a prime spot. Moreover, since she had recently graduated, she was already planning to relocate to Atlanta the upcoming Thursday, rendering the move unnecessary. On a sunny Saturday afternoon, Lauren spent time with friends, returning to her apartment as the evening set in. Late that night, she sent an email to a close friend, confessing her fear of staying alone in her apartment. Something felt off. Tragically, that email would be the last time anyone heard from her. As the days of the following week slipped by, Lauren's absence became alarming. Her friends tried calling her cell phone and even visited her apartment, knocking persistently, but there was no sign of her. Concern deepened when there was still no word after several days, prompting her friends to contact the police. Police met one of Lauren's classmates at her apartment to conduct a welfare check. They knocked on the door and peered through the windows, but the view was obscured and revealed little. From the outside, everything seemed untouched, with no signs of forced entry. The officers spoke briefly with a few neighbors who hadn't seen anything unusual. Concluding that Lauren wasn't home, the police reassured her friend, suggesting there was no immediate cause for alarm. They noted that Lauren's boyfriend, who worked as a lawyer in Atlanta, was currently in California, and they speculated that she might have decided to travel there to be with him. Lauren's classmate remained skeptical. Knowing Lauren as a very responsible and professional woman, it was out of character for her to just vanish without explanation, especially so close to her bar exam. Concerned, the classmate reached out to Lauren's sister, Caitlin, in Maryland. Caitlin hadn't heard from Lauren either, adding to the worry. Caitlin remembered that Lauren kept a spare key hidden under a potted plant on her balcony. She gave the classmate permission to use it to enter the apartment. Soon, several of Lauren's friends, along with the classmate, gathered at her apartment to retrieve the key and search the premises. Stephen McDaniel, who lived next door to Lauren and had been her classmate at law school, also joined in. Like Lauren, the 25-year-old McDaniel had just graduated and was preparing for his bar exam. Upon entering Lauren's apartment late Wednesday night, the group immediately noticed something amiss. A door jammer security bar, which Lauren typically positioned under the door handle for safety, was discarded next to the door. There were no signs of forced entry and, ominously, no trace of Lauren either. However, her personal belongings were untouched. Her cell phone, wallet, driver's license, passport, and car keys were all in place, and her car remained parked outside. This clearly indicated that she had not planned any trips, as she hadn't taken her essential items. Alarmed by these discoveries, Lauren's friends contacted the Macon police again to file a missing person report just before 2 a.m. Early Thursday morning, police commenced a thorough search of her apartment and the surrounding area, and began interviewing neighbors and classmates. The media quickly descended on the scene, eager to cover the unfolding mystery. Lauren's neighbor and fellow law school graduate, Stephen McDaniel, with his long, messy curls fluttering in the summer breeze, eagerly engaged with the reporters.
Did you see her hang out with anyone at the time, anything like that?
I mean, no one has seen her since Saturday. I haven't seen anything. I mean, you always hear noise outside, but it's just people walking by pretty much.
And she just recently graduated from Mercer?
Yeah, she and I we were both JD students. We graduated back in May.
What kind of person was she? I mean, what did you see?
I mean, she's as nice as can be. I mean, very personable, very much a people person.
Do you know any enemies she might have had, somebody that might want to hurt her?
No, we don't know where she is. I mean, the only thing we can think is that maybe she went out running and someone snatched her.
On camera, he speculated, the only thing we can think of is that maybe she went out running and someone snatched her. His hypothesis added a chilling possibility to the already tense atmosphere. Thursday morning brought a routine disturbance to Barrister Hall Apartments, the arrival of the garbage truck coinciding with garbage day. Scheduled for just after 9 a.m., the truck was delayed. Police vehicles obstructing its path to the trash cans prevented what would have been a typical collection. This inadvertent delay preserved what would soon be identified as a critical piece of evidence. By 9:40 a.m., a disturbing discovery shifted the course of the investigation. Police officers, alerted by a foul odor near the dumpsters, inspected a flip-top plastic garbage can. Upon tipping it over and sifting through its contents, they uncovered a horrifying sight, a black plastic garbage bag containing a female torso. The limbs and head had been meticulously severed, presenting a gruesome scene. At that moment, Stephen McDaniel was participating in a live television interview, discussing the search efforts for Lauren. As he described the areas they had combed through earlier that day, the reporter interjected with a question about the parking lot area, hinting at the discovery, "I think that's where they've recovered a body." Stephen's expression shifted to confusion, his face drained of color as he stuttered, "Body?" The reporter pressed on with more questions, but Stephen became visibly distressed, his eyes widening and his body beginning to sway.
What about in the parking lot area? I know they've been doing a lot of, I think that's where they have recovered the body or whatever they recovered from there.
Body?
Had you seen anything there? Had you seen anything there? I mean, we don't know if this is the same person. You know what I mean? Like, they took out a body there earlier. We don't know if it's the same person or not. So that's how we're trying to ask people if they know who lived there. Are you okay, sir?
I think I need to sit down.
Okay.
His reaction, captured live, added a chilling layer to the unfolding tragedy. Stephen stumbled a few feet away and sat on the curb in a daze. Several minutes later, he returned to the television camera in tears. Crying hysterically, he told reporters he wished he could have helped her. He stuttered and stammered for almost 10 minutes, saying that he wished he could have loaned her one of his guns. His performance, however, was a little over the top. It seemed overly extreme for someone that was only a neighbor and not a close friend. His interview caused investigators to take notice. Throughout the day, police interviewed Lauren's friends and neighbors individually. Stephen McDaniel's interview started at 11:50 a.m., and he offered to help in any way he could. Right away, however, detectives noticed he was nervous and fidgety. His anxiety was a tell. Stephen had a scratch on his face. When police asked him to remove his shirt, there was another scratch on his stomach. He claimed he must have scratched himself as he slept. During the questioning, Stephen also made an odd comment. He claimed he was a virgin, saving himself for marriage. Later in the day, the DNA from the torso had been compared to that of Lauren Giddings' mother, and it was a match. The missing person case had just become a homicide, and McDaniel became the prime suspect. Stephen McDaniel had just graduated with a law degree. There was no question that he knew his rights. However, when investigators asked if they could search his apartment, he requested neither a warrant nor legal counsel. He simply agreed and led for investigators back to his apartment. Inside his apartment, police found an extensive collection of swords and guns. Stephen also had stockpiles of canned and dried foods and toilet paper, as if he were preparing for an apocalyptic lockdown. In a dresser drawer, police found a pair of women's underwear with holes cut into them, presumably so he could wear them as a mask. As detectives continued their search of his apartment, Stephen dripped sweat profusely and drank 10 bottles of water. Detectives were puzzled when they found condoms in his nightstand drawer. Just hours earlier, Stephen had professed that he was a virgin and was saving himself for marriage. When asked why he had condoms, he told them he had stolen them from other apartments in the complex. In admitting that he had entered other apartments, he gave detectives exactly what they needed, probable cause to arrest him for burglary. Police brought Stephen McDaniel back to the police station for further interrogation while investigators continued searching his apartment. On the ride back to the police station, Stephen's demeanor changed completely as he sat in the back of the squad car. He appeared as if he had some sort of mental breakdown. The entire ride, he sat quietly with a blank stare on his face and looked directly forward. Once in the interrogation room, Stephen McDaniel spoke in a calm, robotic tone. "No, I don't know, I don't understand." Over and over, his answers were all the same. The young man that rambled to reporters for 10 minutes just hours earlier now couldn't utter more than 3 words at a time. His wide, unblinking eyes made him look as if he were in a permanently surprised state. They fixed directly into Detective Patterson's eyes, but seemed to look through him rather than at him. It almost appeared as if he were in some sort of trance. His responses to the barrage of questions were so monotone that at one point, Detective Patterson asked him if he had ever taken acid. His reply, of course, was a simple no. It was well after midnight on the last day of June 2011. Perhaps Stephen was just tired. After all, he had a long day. Several days, actually. It was a lot of work dismembering a human body.
I mean, earlier today, me and you sit here and talk normal. What's going on with you now? Why are you acting like this? I need to know. Why all of a sudden you're acting like this?
I don't understand.
Okay. Earlier today, we sat here and talked. But now you're acting like you don't know what's going on. I mean, did something happen or something to you? I mean, why are you shutting down? Why are you not talking to me?
I don't know.
You don't know? Are you scared?
No.
Each answer was slow and deliberate, with his eyes never leaving the eyes of the detective. He remained distant and disengaged the entire time. 2 detectives took turns aggressively questioning him with little success. At one point, one detective used what's called the futility technique. It was a technique where the interrogator plays on the doubts that are already present in the suspect's mind in an attempt to persuade them to admit guilt.
There's blood in your apartment, Stephen. You didn't get it all up. It didn't all come off. You scrubbed and you wiped. But we can tell that. Don't you wipe CSI? Yeah, we know it. Stephen, why is there blood in your bathroom?
I don't know.
Yes, you do know. Why, Stephen?
I don't know.
Has anybody else been in your bathroom?
The technique, however, had no effect on him because the detective was lying and Stephen knew it. He knew they wouldn't find blood in his apartment because he butchered her in her own apartment, not his. When asked why he had so many guns, including a semi-automatic rifle, Stephen claimed he just liked them and had never fired them. Not once. After 2 hours of an extremely strange interrogation, detectives let him speak to his mother, who had traveled to Macon to see him. When his mother entered the interrogation room, his demeanor changed back to the normal Stephen. His dazed answers were all for show, a pathetic strategy he had hoped would make him look insane. The interrogation was useless, but investigators had gathered more than enough evidence at the scene to arrest Stephen McDaniel for murder. In his apartment, police found a flash drive with hundreds of personal photos of Lauren Giddings. Some photos had been taken inside her apartment. They found a video camera with video taken from outside of Lauren's second-story window. He had attached the video camera to the end of a 6-foot wooden pole. Stephen stood on the ground beneath her bedroom window and raised the camera up to record inside her bedroom. He recorded one video in the evening just before she was murdered. Stephen had in his possession a master key to every apartment in the complex that he had stolen from a security guard whom had previously worked there. One of the most crucial pieces of evidence was a hacksaw that was found in a storage cabinet of the laundry room. There was still blood on the blade that contained Lauren Giddings' DNA. They found the packaging for the same blade in his apartment. Searches of his computer's browser history showed Google searches for the terms "escape prison" and "choked unconscious how long wake up." The searches were entered just minutes before Lauren was murdered. Stephen's Facebook and LinkedIn histories had shown several visits to Lauren's online profiles. He had also visited websites and watched videos of sex with dead bodies and violent pornography. With his bond set at $2.5 million, Stephen McDaniel sat in jail for the next 3 years while prosecutors built their case against him. The evidence continued to mount against him and he faced the death penalty. A death penalty trial could have taken 5 to 7 years to prepare for, but in April 2014, Stephen saved the state those years and confessed to killing Lauren Giddings. In a written statement, Stephen admitted that on the night of June 26, 2011, around 4:30 a.m., he entered her apartment with the master key. Wearing gloves and a mask, he crept into her bedroom and stood in the doorway, watching her sleep. But when he took another step, the floorboard creaked and Lauren woke up. She yelled, "Get the fuck out!" Stephen leapt onto her bed and wrapped his gloved hands around her throat. They fought and tumbled out of the bed and onto the floor. During the altercation, Lauren scratched his face and stomach. When she grabbed at his face, she pulled his mask off and realized it was Stephen. She cried, "Stephen, please stop." On the floor at the side of the bed, Lauren got her legs caught underneath the bed, which kept her from kicking him. Stephen sat on top of her and strangled her for 15 minutes before she stopped moving. Once she was dead, Stephen dragged her body into her bathroom, put her in the bathtub, and went back to his own apartment. He stayed in his apartment on his computer for almost 20 hours. Just before midnight on Sunday night, Stephen returned to Lauren's apartment with a hacksaw. He removed her arms, legs, and head, placing them in black plastic garbage bags. He walked across the street to the Mercer Law School and placed the extremities in a dumpster. His mask, gloves, and the shirt he was wearing were cut into small pieces, which he flushed down the toilet. After dumping the body parts, Stephen returned to Lauren's apartment to clean up. He had contained the mess to the bathroom only. Stephen explained to detectives that he did not sexually assault her. He told that he didn't even take off her clothes, and her torso still had on the same pink running shorts he had killed her in. He went on to explain that he continued to prepare for the bar exam on Monday and attended a bar prep class on Tuesday and Wednesday. Stephen claimed that while he searched with Lauren's friends on Thursday, he was in a dreamlike delusional state. "I believed, at the time, while taking part in the search, that Lauren was still alive and that I had not done what I had done, even searching the empty law school in a delusional hope of finding Lauren alive and well, as if I had not really killed her." Stephen McDaniel expressed his sorrow and regret in the signed confession, but his shallow words did nothing to alleviate the grief experienced by Lauren's family. Stephen chalked his actions up to momentary confusion and panic. He claimed he never intended on killing her, but his calculated actions showed premeditation. He had purchased the hacksaw blade days before he actually killed Lauren. The fact was, Stephen McDaniel was a stalker and a voyeur. Plain and simple. The object of his obsession had graduated and was moving away within days, meaning she would no longer be in his life. It was his last chance. Stephen McDaniel couldn't bear the thought of never seeing Lauren Giddings again. Once she left school, he would just be someone she used to know. By murdering her, his actions connected them forever. Stephen McDaniel was sentenced to life without the possibility of parole until 2041. The head, arms, and legs of Lauren Giddings were never recovered.